It's the 80s Experience on FM 88.5 KSBR. He's best known for being one of the founding members of the one of the best bands out of the 1980s, the great band called Survivor, and he has been the only consistent member of the band since its formation, Mr. Frankie Sullivan. Frankie, how are we feeling today, man? I know you're a little under the weather.
I'm doing all right. It's just my throat, that's all.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah.
You just have to drink a lot of tea, right? A lot of lemon and tea.
That's what I've been doing, too.
See, there you go, man. Can you take us back to when you were growing up in Chicago and being the great guitarist and songwriter that you are? Who were your musical idols growing up?
Man, I don't know. I guess it starts with the beat. I liked guitar players a lot. That's probably why I played.
And I know one of the best out of Chicago was Paul Butterfield Blues Band.
Yeah.
That was a great one.
Good. Yeah, it's a good one. I listened to a lot of Jimi Hendrix when I was young.
Okay.
Because he was on the radio a lot, and I used to listen to a lot of Cream. FM radio used to be so cool. Now it's kind of a thing of the past.
Right.
But there was some great stuff on, because guitar was kind of just coming around,
Mm-hmm.
You had those young guys like Beck and Clapton and stuff making their mark, and so it was an exciting time.
And then once you started listening to Clapton and Cream and Hendrix, then what got you interested in playing the guitar? What was that first step like?
I don't know. I liked the sound. It was Hendrix. I always liked the sound of the guitars. And, when I got the Cream, like the Disraeli Gears record, they sounded so good. It just kind of grabbed me right away. So I just started, I didn't. First guitar I had was like a Hangstrom, so it was a pretty inexpensive guitar, but it's all I could afford, so I just kind of lived with it for a few years. And I think then I got a Gibson about 2 years later, but I just played a lot. I liked it.
How did you meet up with the other members of the band that would soon become the band Survivor? How did you guys all get together?
I was in that band Mariah, and we did records for United Artists. And we were all playing in clubs around Chicago at the time. Both bands, all of us, the club scene here was thriving at one time. So we used to play, all the bands used to play around all the time, and you kind of got to know each other. Not really well, but, you'd see everybody around once in a while. And, you didn't get I wasn't really friendly with some of them, with any of them, but I knew who they were, so I don't know. They came to see one of my band one night, and then they suggested I come by, and it just kind of segued into this.
I know one of the earlier singles that I remember that you guys released was a great tune called Poor Man's Son. How was that song discovered?
That's a weird story, man. It's not a weird story. This was a totally different song. That's the second record. So, after your first record, we spent a fortune on that first record. Didn't do as good as they thought. So the second record, they cut us way back. I think we were at the record plant. We had Ron Nevison doing the first record. He just finished, he just did Physical Graffiti, Tommy, Quadrophenia, and the Babies Head First, and Bad Company, and then us.
Wow.
So, we went from the record plant and spending $600,000 to, you get 75 this record. So
wow.
We just had to make do, and we were rehearsing, and it was a totally different song. It started out, I got an old tape of it, and I stumbled across it one time. I said, man, am I glad we changed that thing. It was more like a dune. It was a really, really different tune. I had those ideas. I had the ideas to do those guitar stabs,
Mm-hmm.
Start out with the crash chords. I wanted to make it more guitar-orientated. I always heard that the Rhodes piano because Supertramp always did that. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what, man, that might fit really cool. Jim and I were rapping one day, and I said, maybe we could keep that piano part going through there, and instead of doing it on a grand piano, we could do it on like a Rhodes or a Wurlitzer, which is what it ended up being, and it just kind of vibed along.
Rocky III was the biggest movie of the year in 1982. Survivor was given the opportunity to record the theme song for that movie, which ended up being the hit single, Eye of the
Was it the biggest movie of the year? I guess it was a huge movie.
Rocky III was gigantic. And
it was huge. I can't. Yeah. I always keep forgetting, but you're right, it was huge.
Yeah, it was a big tune, and I know you guys came up with the hit single "Eye of the Tiger" for the theme song. What was that whole experience like? How did you guys get picked to be on the soundtrack?
Trip. It was a total trip, man. You're never going to see anything like that coming. It's like I always tell young kids, or like my son, he's a killer drummer, and I always kind of tell people, you got to just be ready, because you don't know if any opportunity is going to knock. But when it does, you want to be ready for it.
Absolutely.
I just think we were ready.
Did you write part of that song? You did write part of Eye of the Tiger, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I co-wrote it. Jim and I wrote it, yeah.
One of my all-time favorite songs. I mean, I'm a drummer at heart, but the great
drummer?
Yeah, I am at heart, and I've stopped playing here for a little while, but always been playing drums. But I love on the Eye of the Tiger album, there was a song called "Ever Since the World Began."
Ever Since the World Began is one of my favorite songs.
Okay, thank you. I mean, it gives me chills still when I hear that song. What was the story behind that tune?
You know what? We went to submit another ballot. We wanted to submit a couple songs for Rocky III. So that was the other song that we had written for it. And we really liked it. Actually, I think we liked it more than Tiger at the time. We were kind of writing about life and, ourselves. And I don't know. Jim and I had this vibe with writing. It was pretty easy for us to write. We just used to shoot ideas around and talk about what's going on. And then we'd write lyrics. And that song, we thought it was way better than Tiger, now that I think about it. Mm-hmm. And then Tiger came on, and when we sent the tapes in, they're like, oh, they love Eye of the Tiger. We're going, well, what about Ever Since the World Began? But, we thought they would like that one better for some reason, so it shows you what we know.
Yeah, but I mean, just from somebody that's not even in the band, just as a listener and as a fan of Survivor, I thought that was probably the best song on the album.
I think it was.
Yeah.
It's one of my all-time favorites.
Towards the end of 1984, Survivor released another amazing album called Vital Signs, and that was hugely successful for you guys. One of the great singles, I Can't Hold Back. How was that track conceived?
That's a cool trick. So, that's a whole cool... That whole thing, that was the last track. They were breaking down the drums, and whenever I look at Vital Signs, I try to imagine, what the heck would that record be like without Can't Hold Back on it? Because that was the first, cut one, side one in the first release, and it got a ton of airplay, and we were breaking down the drums. We were done cutting tracks. We said, okay, we're done. And Ron, we were getting ready to move up to Sausalito to do overdubs. I was playing a guitar lick. I was playing that opening lick on guitar, and I just kind of kept circulating, just playing it over and over and over. And I said, I kind of like this lick. I think Jim was, I don't know if he was there at the time, but I recorded it, and then I kept playing it, and Ron's like, what are you playing? I said, just something I'm thinking about. He goes, well, you need to keep playing it and finishing. And then they were moving the drums. He said, put the drums back. So then he came and he said to me, get that thing done by tomorrow. Come in the morning early at 10, and we'll cut it at 1 o'clock. So we kind of had the B verse. Jim and I kind of had the B verse, and we kind of had the chorus, because that came pretty easy. And the verse was based, that guitar part goes through the whole song, so we kind of had that basic part down. So we got together, I think, like at 10 or 10:30 at the studio, and then around 1 o'clock, we started cutting it, and Ron had made a couple changes, and we went out and cut it, and that was that. And I keep thinking, gee, what would Vital Signs be like without Can't Hold Back on it? That's pretty weird.
You and Jim collaborated on a ton of hit singles and album tracks together. I know the next single that came out here in America was High on You. How did you guys collaborate on that tune?
We were at rehearsal, that song, and there's another song, How Much Love, which is actually on 1 Seconds Count. I was sitting at the keyboard, and I don't usually do that. I started, every time I play something, it's either in C or G, and that's in G. I was just playing a stabbing kind of synth thing. So Jim says, well, move over. So he started playing it, and I just said, well, hang on. And I just grabbed an acoustic guitar, and we just said, this is really poppy, so what are we going to do with this thing lyrically and melodically? Well, we figured you can't go too hard on the lyrics, so we better make it, we got to have a really cool melody that people can sing along with, because it's one of those sing-along songs. And so we just kind of approached it as it's something that's fun, and it is. It's a pop song. It's a total pop song, but it's a cool tune.
I know the last single released from that great Vital Signs album was a track called The Search Is Over, which is one of the most requested songs here on the 80s Experience radio show here in Southern California. How did you and Jim come up with The Search Is Over?
I don't know. I read so much of I know how it came up. It's really easy, to be honest with you. We were writing about friendship at the time, and we were rehearsing in a carpet warehouse, okay? Because the tour manager, his friend owned it, and we needed a place to rehearse. So we were rehearsing at this carpet place, and I remember the carpet was driving us nuts, but it's, again, you either play black or white keys, both me and Jim. So that's an E flat, so it's all on black keys, It's hard for us to do both. We're not really piano players. We can give five, but, it's one or the other. We were just tossing ideas around. Originally we were writing about friendship. And then I said, that's never going to sell in my head. Who wants to hear about that? Ron came in and he said, no, he didn't come in. I sent him a tape, and he goes, you need a bridge on that song. I said, yeah, you're right, it does, which I really like. The bridge on that song is really cool. And it goes to an E minor, which I like, because that's kind of a strong key for guitar, and even bass, it's low, and I don't know, we used to sit around and just toss ideas back and forth.
I know Survivor recorded Eye of the Tiger for Rocky III, and then you guys had the opportunity to do another song for Rocky IV, the song Burning Heart.
Burning Heart, yeah.
Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were in the middle of a tour, and we were running between the studio and on the road, and, he asked us to write another song for him, and he wanted that same pulsing thing. He did give us the direction on that one. So that's kind of what we did.
And, Frankie, when you mean he, who do you mean?
Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
Wow.
He told me, I still want that beat. I want that driving beat. And I said, dude, we already did that. Well, do it again. So I'm like, okay, we can do that too. And, we just did it and changed a few things. He wanted a couple things that we weren't really crazy about. So we just worked it out. And in the end, he didn't really notice. And he liked the song enough to use it.
Yeah, it was a great, great song. Burning Heart's a great song. Another great song, I know the second to last album of the 1980s was a great album called When Seconds Count. The track called Is This Love? Tell me about that tune.
What do you want to know about it?
Anything you can tell me.
It's kind of private, but, that's kind of one of those true-to-life stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's an experience that you have. And sometimes you write songs about what happened to you and in your life, I don't know, by then I think I was living in L.A., and, I was living in a hotel for a long time, and we were making a record, and I was seeing somebody, and I was kind of, I was questioning a lot of things, and I was like, what's with these chicks? I need something real here,
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to Jim one day, and I said, man, we actually took that idea and wrote another song called Backstreet Love Affair, kind of with the same premise. But I said, what do you find something real these days? Because you never knew back then. We just had sold all those records, and you're running around Hollywood, and you're dating chicks, and you're thinking, I'm tired of these one-night stands. I need something real.
Now, Frankie, are you working on any solo projects, or just strictly working with Survivor, or what are you personally doing?
I'm always doing something, I'm always doing something. I don't know. Right now this is the first time I've been actually home for a couple of weeks, and I actually said to myself, I'm going to stay away from the guitar and the piano for a while. So I actually managed to do it for a couple of weeks. But then I was I journal, so I get a lot of lyrics from my journal. So today, it lasted a couple of weeks, but this morning when I got up, I started writing and working on something I was reading in my journal. So I don't know. I like what I do.
Right.
And I'm kind of, quietly effective at it. I don't have a need to be, I don't have a need to be famous at it. I love it.
Right.
I mean?
Yes.
I like notoriety, and I like that. This is what I really like. I like that the people The fans like the songs. That's what I like most.
Yeah, that's number one. Doing what you love to do. Like me, I have a secondary job, but this is my love. I love doing radio. I've been doing it for many, many years and just love being a part of it. So it's not really even a job to me, like you with songwriting.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Absolutely. Well, Frankie, thank you so much for your
No problem.
your time, my friend.